Uh, and so, dude, I reached back and I put my hand on my back and my hip where it's been hurting so bad. And Philip began to pray. Brother, I'm telling you, I'm looking you right in the eye and telling you, I felt the pain relieve in sequential order from my hip, worked its way down my leg.
If you need hope, come closer. If you need fire, come closer. He turns the broken into gold, and the dry bones start to move. So in life,
Okay, get set up here.
And I hit record. All right, well, welcome to Pulpit to podcast. I don't even know what episode we are. We missed a lot.
We're less than 20 because
We're less than 20.
that's a benchmark in my mind that I'm excited to get to.
We will make it to 20.
Yeah.
Like, there's no question in my mind. We're going to make it to 20.
But are you telling me that life happens and stuff gets in the way?
Oh man, it was like 1 week it was one person, and then another week it was another person, then another week it was me, and so I think we're 4 weeks missed. This is the 5th week since we've come
and
together.
we've got to stem this flow, man. We got to get back in our routines.
Oh, there's no question in my mind, but I think I've kind of committed to. We're going from this point forward. Like I'm gonna just set a date and say this is the date I'm doing it, and then if you can be here, and if you can't, I'll get a guest. You know.
There's a whole sermon there on consistency, and I was at a pastor's conference this past week, or a refresh retreat for me and my wife, and one of the pastors there, he's like, you know what, you've got to set a time for intimacy with God every day. He goes, but make it the same time, make it the same place, So, I think it translates to so many other areas of ministry or so many other areas of our lives. It's just, you know what? Make it deliberate. The most important thing in your life should be the most important thing in your life. And I was like, man, talk about get me right here.
Yeah. And man, it's funny that you say that because I totally agree with that. But I also love the idea of like new and fresh, and so I love, you can get in a routine and then it becomes exactly that. It becomes routine.
Yeah.
And then it's no longer intimacy. Then it's, just motions. This is what I do every day. I had a conversation with a guy less than a year ago, and he was talking about how he's like, man, I read my Bible every single day. I sit down in my chair and I put my Bible in my lap and I read my Bible every day. And he's like, man, it almost feels like it's meaningless. He was like, and he said, I hate to say that. He was like, but I feel like I do it and I get nothing from it. I never get a word from the Lord. I never hear anything. He's like, I'm praying. I'm asking God, like, speak to me, tell me. And I was like, man, first things first, like, just change it up, like pick a new spot, go sit by a creek, like go get it out in nature.
Have you ever tried to read your Bible in nature?
Oh yeah.
Okay. It comes with its own challenges. I'm out there, I'm in the woods, I'm sitting on a rock, and I've got a great spot. It is designed by the Lord. It's only for me, and my kids and my wife know. But like I'll sit out there, and it is, if it's not the chipmunks, it's the squirrels, it's the neighbor's donkey. I am in the middle of almost 300 acres, and I can hear, the redneck diesel, screaming by, almost a half mile away. Like, you're like, oh, go to nature. It's peaceful. Then you've never been in nature, anyways. But that's a personal conviction. Nature's beautiful. If that works for you, then that's exciting. But I get the heart of what you're saying. Change your locale, change it up a little bit. And you're absolutely right.
And not just the change up personally, by yourself, but sometimes it's good to like go to a conference. It's good to go do something fresh, go do something new, do something different. And I just did that. I went to 2819.
Oh man, so you've turned me on to Philip Mitchell Anthony, which is hard to miss. I can't believe his name is one of the ones that I've missed. The past couple of years, I've been following, a lot more, pastors and preachers and stuff. So, and then you told me, hey, this guy's really cool. And then followed that immediately on with, I'm going on vacation and I'm going to this church and we're leaving it. How early did you leave in the morning?
Stupid early. It was, so it was like we were going to go, work the night shift. We
stay up all night and drive.
We left the house at 3 a.m. Mm-hmm. And that was we're going to leave at 3 a.m. We're going to get to 2819 at the time we had mapped it out because they're central. So they're an hour behind. So we're going to leave at 3 a.m. and we'll get there an hour early. And thankfully we had some friends from church coming and because they also wanted to go. So they went the night before and stayed in a hotel. And then they came up maybe 2 hours early before service. So service was 10:30. They got there at like 8:30 in the morning, maybe a little earlier. I don't know. But they got there early. And so they went and stood in line, and they're texting with us and like, oh, the line's not too bad. So they had I think they had an 8 o'clock service. So they had got there right after the other service went in for service 1. And they're standing in line. We're texting with them on the way. We had left at 3 a.m. So at this point, it's like, maybe 8 o'clock our time, 8:30 our time. And they're texting with us saying, they're in line or whatever. And or maybe it was like 9 o'clock, 9:30
in line to get into church. Man, that's cool.
But I see why. If you've ever gone, I see why. I'll come back to a story in a minute if you want to talk about those lines, because the lines were nuts. And I might get numbers wrong because I was rushing. I was just so anyways, we're driving there, and then we're pulling into Atlanta and getting off the exit there to go to 2819, and the traffic is starting to back up. And I'm like, tell me this is not because of the church. Oh, it was.
Are you kidding me?
I mean, I'm telling you, like, we're on the road, and I'm like, I can see that little sign. I'm pretty sure that sign says 2819, and we're way back down the road, on this traffic. And so we finally get up to the church, and there's a officer standing outside. And at this point, it is maybe 10, like maybe it's like 10:20, and so we were going to get there an hour early. And we're there. It's now 10:20 when we're finally getting past, and so we're 10 minutes before service. And there's this officer there, and I rolled down my window and I said, "Hey, man, we don't know where we are. We're from Kentucky." And I was like, "Are we gonna be able to park in there?" And he was like, "Well, you can." And he was like, "But he's like, so service 1 hasn't let out yet."
Oh.
And he was like, "Pastor's back in town." So that's literally his words. He was like, "Pastor's back in town," and so he goes until he's done, and he's like, he's still going. And he was like, if you want to know when he's done, just watch YouTube. And he was like, so when he gets done, this parking lot will empty out. He was like, so if you want to circle around and put your car on the side of the road and wait till that crowd comes out, then you can slip in and go get a spot. And he was like, otherwise you got to go to overflow parking over at the mall. And he's like, it's not that far. Dude, it's like a mile.
Oh, okay.
You say it's not far until you're walking back. Yeah. And they were like, we've got, they've got shuttles. This is the officer. He's, police officer for Atlanta. He's not the church, And so he's like, they've got shuttles, they'll shuttle you back. Well, we parked over there. Mm-hmm. First of all, there's no parking in the overflow.
Are you kidding?
I mean, I'm telling you, we're in a mall's parking lot. Now, they do have certain spots blocked, like certain areas blocked off so that you're not taking all the spots for the businesses.
Dude, how cool. Let's just pause for a minute and think. Your lines, your police officers of the city know enough about the church. Pastor's back in town,
right.
So there's that. There's the wait in line, the anticipation for the gospel. And yeah, there's a guy preaching, but it's the gospel being delivered.
Yep.
I mean, it sounds like a sports event. We make that connection all the time of Super Bowls and sporting events and what can you do? And you're like, man, we could walk a mile. I'm like, yeah, people are walking a mile to go see this guy.
Yeah.
I mean, this is turning into, this is cool. I love hearing this.
Dude, it was cool. And I loved it. You said, people like walking a mile to go see this guy. And I'm sure some were. But to be honest with you, I just want to be, like I went to Asbury a couple of years ago. Man, if I hear the Lord's moving somewhere, I want to experience that. Like I want to be there.
Absolutely.
And so for me, that was kind of the thing. And it's interesting because the experience is, yeah. Okay. So I'll come back to that in a second.
That's good.
So we park over at the mall, and first thing is I don't see the sign that says you can't park over here. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to park over here. I know it's a little further. And so I'll park over there, and immediately police officer, the lights pop on. And that happened to me a couple of times on the trip.
Oh, man.
I got a ticket.
Oh, gosh.
It was terrible. And it was so terrible. I'm driving on the way home, and it was like 60, 40, 30 within a mile. And I was not paying attention. I don't speed. I literally don't. I had my cruise control set, and I'm not used to back roads that go from 60 to 30 because to me 60 is interstate speed, and so I'll just drove right. I mean, I drove right past that cop.
Yeah.
I had the cruise. It was I thought it was 60, and I had the cruise set at 57.
Yeah.
And lights came on, and I'm like, "What?" And I looked down at my GPS, and it had changed to 35. And I'm like, "You've got to be kidding me!" And yeah, my kids were in the car behind me, and they're like, "Are you gonna get arrested?" And I'm not gonna get arrested. Just let me get my ticket.
Yeah.
So, anyways, $230 later.
Sarah and I jokingly call that stupid tax.
Oh,
And accidents happen. That's the last time I got a ticket. Is change speed zones. I was going through a small town or whatever. It's been a long time since I had a ticket, but
I had been 20 years.
Oh, well, it hadn't been that long, but still, yeah. It's I'm like, okay, yeah. Officer's doing his job. I get it. Small towns need to increase their budgets, so they got to set up speed traps and speed zones that, like, okay, here 500 feet later, we're gonna go from 75 to 20. Like, yeah. So they need a boost in their little local economy. So
I'm gonna tell you, it definitely felt that way. I'm like, you went from 60 to 35 in less than a mile.
Yeah.
And the police officer sitting right behind the 35 sign.
Oh man.
Like, I mean, there's 35, and there she was.
The only thing worse than that's like flock cameras and tickets in the mail. I don't want to talk about it. Okay, we're derailing here. You had a lot of run-ins with the police.
We can talk about some flock cameras.
Dude, let's go back to that.
Yeah,
I want to hear about some flock cameras.
So, anyways, so we go park over at this mall, and first they had to tell me you can't park there. Like, you got to park on this portion over here. So they're leaving these for the businesses, and I can see why they would have filled up that whole parking lot. And so we finally find a place to park in the overflow. I circled and circled, but finally let Kelly and the kids out. And I was like, y'all walk up with the crowd and go get in line because we're already late. It's now 10:30.
And you had 2 vehicles on this trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so myself and my daughter are trying to park the other cars, and we finally find some spots and get parked in the overflow parking. And then there's no shuttles. Kelly was able to catch a shuttle with the kids and shuttle back. Well, we didn't get one. They were all full. Every time there'd be one, the driver would be like, "No, we're full." And so they were being nice, but I mean, Kaylee and I had to now walk a mile. Ooh. Well, thankfully, Philip Anthony runs late, and so he ran late, and and that was good for us.
Yeah.
So it gave us time. We finally get there, and our friends who had been there early, they were seeing the crowds build. And I didn't really anticipate what I was about to see when I got on that church property. I mean, I'm like, and I don't know if it's theirs or if they're renting it. I don't know the story of that building. It looks like some sort of a tech college building or something.
Yeah.
It doesn't look
like very square, blocky.
Yeah, it's very blocky, very square. Locally, if you've ever been over at CEC, it kind of looked like that, but like a bigger version of that. And so, it's like just super squared off, blocky, lots of windows. And when you get inside, I'm like, this is obviously not all the space. So, but there's a big auditorium in there. But I'll get to that in a second. I'm walking up on the property after walking a mile, and our friends had said, "Hey, we talked with everybody, and they're going to let you cut in line and jump in with us." Because they were telling people as they were coming up, like, "Hey, our friends are coming from Kentucky," and so everybody was fine with it. And I'm like, well, why would they be fine with it or not fine with it, dude? I'm telling you, it was kind of crazy. We round you. There's a sign, and you walk in, and the building's on the right, and so you can't really see it because the front of the building's on the other side. So we're walking along this kind of big square, blocky, gray building, and then we round the corner, and dude, there's not a line. There's lines. And when I say that, I mean like there's like turnbuckles of people here.
Oh,
and then there's
turnbuckles
of people here. And then there's turnbuckles of people here. Like there's probably, I don't know, 5, 10, 15, I don't know.
You're talking like roller coaster rides where they like cattle shoot you into the ride just to make room?
But I'm saying there's a tent with that, and that's line 1, and then there's another one over here. So you have to go, some people have to go through line 2 turnbuckles to then come over here and go through line 1.
Oh my goodness.
It was crazy. And so they had them like up by the door, which is where our friends were. And then they had them, they had a tent over here with lines and turnbuckles, and a tent over here with lines and turnbuckles, and all the way. I don't know. I don't want to speak out of turn. Somebody goes there might be like, we only have 3. I don't know. But it sure felt like there was like 5 or 6 of them.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was to take a guess, I would say there was what sure looked to me like could have been 5,000 to 8,000 people outside.
That's crazy.
All in these turnbuckles, and there's people. I mean, they had volunteers. They probably had as many volunteers as we have in church.
That's awesome. Hey, that's a good problem to have.
Oh, dude, for sure. They've got these people in lanyards and 2819 church shirts, and they're walking around with bullhorns and praying for people. And there's one guy. He's literally walking around with a bullhorn praying, like, Lord, I pray that these people will have the tenacity to wait it out in the heat. Because, by the way, it's like 95 degrees.
I was about to bring up the heat. When you're talking about walking a mile, I'm like, I'm sure it was nice, cool, 70 degrees. Yeah.
No, it was Atlanta summer.
Okay. Yeah. Roger that. So lots of blacktop, lots of reflected heat.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was pouring sweat by the time I got there.
Well, you're in good company.
Yeah, that's right.
That's one thing I know about this guy. So real quick, I was listening to another podcast, and his name came up. And they're like, do you know why this guy always wears black? And I was like, because he sweats so much. And that is not the story at all, by the way. But that's what I've always thought.
What did they say he always wears black for?
Oh, dude, you haven't heard that story? I don't know that I want to ruin it, but like we can talk here in a minute, but I'll come back to that. It's a crazy, awesome story.
I know a little bit about the rebranding.
Okay. This has nothing to do with the rebranding. It's very individual to Philip Mitchell Anthony.
Okay. All right.
So, I mean, if you want me to dive in now, like I can.
No, we'll come back.
Okay, let's come back. I want to hear this story.
So, so we are, we go through I'm passing up the turnbuckles. I'm walking past them. And there's a few people making comments. They're like, how do I get in your crowd? Like stuff. Like, how do I get in your group? And
dude.
And so I'm like walking through.
Pull your hat down.
Oh man, it was like I'm like, are you all sure? And our friends Denise, she had already met Kelly because Kelly shuttled over.
Yeah.
So Kelly and Denise had come over, and they're like, no, come on. And so they're grabbing me and Kaylee, and they're kind of escorting us, if you will, past everybody. Like, we're up here, we're around here. So it was hard for me to like take it in completely.
Because you're in a hurry. I'm
like in a rush, but dude, it was intense. There was just a lot of stuff happening, and I'm sure if you were in line for that time, it would have probably slowed down a little bit. But it didn't feel like it for me. It was a rush. So by the time I get up I'm in the first set of turnbuckles with them. We go through the turnbuckles. This is probably like 10:45, and when you go in the church, I recognized what they were doing. They've got a line of greeters. They don't have like 2 greeters. They have 50 greeters, maybe 25. I don't know. But they have a line of people that are shoulder to shoulder, and you can't get past them. I mean, they'd probably let you past if you wanted, but you can see whatever's in a hallway back over this way. But they've got like an L shape of people, and so they're funneling you in and to the right.
Yeah.
So that way, I'm assuming so that the people coming out can get out without kind of bottlenecking a little bit.
Smart.
So they're like cheerleading you on the way in. They're like, woo, come on. And this one lady, dude, it cracked me. I loved it. I thought it was great. You heard me say it last night.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, this one lady like leans over and she was like, if you a white guy coming in here, you got to dance. And I'm like, all right, I'm all
I'll
for
dance
it.
a jig. Let's go.
I thought it was hilarious. I was
Yeah.
like, man, that's great. And I think the lady beside her kind of like gave her one of those.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. That to me brings a smile to my face. When I was stationed in Charleston for the longest time, in my military trainings, Sarah and I think we were still dating. I don't think we were married yet, but we went to an all black Baptist church down there, and it was great. I never got so much hugs and love and great food. Like, it was an awesome, awesome experience.
There's a cultural thing, I mean, I'm not trying to like make a thing where it's not. It's just there's like a black church culture, and dude, I love it.
It is infectious.
Yeah,
like, you can't get in there and not smile.
Yeah,
like it was.
And it kind of has like there's kind of two sides. Like Philip Anthony Mitchell's church. There's the kind of like I don't know the word I want to use there. Just like exuberant praise. Mm-hmm. People are like jumping. When I say jumping, I don't mean like bounce hopping. I mean they're like leaping like as high as they can leap 20 times over. I'm like, man, that's a leg workout.
Yeah, it is.
So,
it is.
They're
come to church to get fit.
Yeah, that's right. And they've got flags and tambourines, and it was cool. I loved it. I was all about it. But I've also been on the other side of that. I went to a church in downtown Louisville. I got invited to a friend who had a church plant one time, and he invites me to his church plant, and I'm like, and so it's like opening day, and I'm like, oh, dude, I will totally be there. And so I go all by myself. I thought there was going to be 10 people there. And no, there was a couple of hundred. And they are dressed to the nines. And I had been like weed eating the yard and didn't change. And so I'm walking in shorts and my grassy shoes, and they are like dressed to the nines. Some of them have big hats, like, I mean, it looks like kind of like Derby, if you would, like.
I have definitely been there before, but I went to go to a men's conference at a men's conference. It was like night one of the men's conference, and it was a Pentecostal church.
Oh yeah.
And I roll in and I had jeans and like a button-up shirt on, but I mean, they're suit, tie, 3-piece. Yeah, I mean, everything.
I wished I had a button-up shirt and jeans.
Yeah,
in this case.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I was not. In my mind, I was like, oh, yeah, it'll be a sweet little, like opening service. It's on a Sunday afternoon at 4:00 or something like that. And no, they were decked out, and he had invited all his family and all his friends, and his home church had come over to support him. And then he called me up on stage.
Oh.
Yeah, in front of everybody. And I'm like, man, are you serious right now? And he's like, yeah, come on up here. And I was like, oh man, I don't know. And so then he like hands me the mic, and he's like, man, if you've got a word for us, share it. And well, what do you say then? Like
okay.
I'm holding the mic.
Yeah.
And so, man, I just turned it. I was like, look, if you can't beat him, join him. So I just turned it into, that's what the Lord does for us. Look at me compared to,
yeah.
But this is what the Lord does. He invites the dirty in.
Yeah.
And, they were just cheering and clapping, and dude, it was awesome. Like it was a crazy cool experience.
Yeah.
So, and so similarly in that way, there was just an excitement in the air, and that was cool. Like I loved it. And so they had this line of greeters, and they're, like I said, some of them got tambourines, some of them got pom-poms, and they're clapping and cheering. And
I think that's great.
They had something I actually want to take a note from, especially just because time is an issue sometimes. They actually had their communion that day at Lord's Supper, and they had the little cups, the little pre-done cups, and with bread
like
and stuff.
Wafer on top.
Yeah, like a wafer on top. And you took one of those on your way in from the greeters.
Oh, okay.
And so you grab one of those on your way in. Now they did have some of their volunteers had buckets with those, and they went around the crowd, and they said, hey, if you didn't get one on the way in, but you want, we'll put your hand up, we'll get you one. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, instead of doing like what we're doing and kind of getting people to go, because at first we used to pass the elements. That takes forever.
Oh yeah.
And so then we went and said, okay, get up and go pick them up yourself, and then come back to your seats, which is where we're at now. But they did it at the very beginning. Is you grabbed it and then you just kept it with you until they got to that point of the service.
Yeah, couple schools of thought there. I mean, I like that, but I do love that our church dives into the seriousness of communion. So I mean, if you're a guest, everybody's grabbing one. I'm going to grab one. I'm going to take communion. So you would need to make space for people to not take it. Yeah. That didn't know any better and just grabbed whatever on the way in. So, anyways,
they did. I mean, I would not accuse him of not taking it seriously. Like he took he talked about the gravity of it, and like
good.
Yeah, he talked about.
I'm not saying anybody's doing anything wrong. That was just the first thought that popped in my mind. Usually because I'm the one doing announcements,
right.
And I'm like, all right, go ahead and get the elements, but consider this. Use this time for prayer. I mean, the Bible says some pretty serious things about, taking communion either improperly or with the wrong heart. I'm just like,
enough for me to not take it lightly.
Yeah. Yeah,
so,
exactly. Anyways, but that's a cool thing. I like the efficiency model when you got that many people.
Yeah.
Like, imagine, is there any way with that many people and that level of hype and excitement that they could have funneled into tables and got individual elements? Like for them,
no way.
Probably no way. So it's great.
I mean, they're maxing out space. If you listen to church growth rules, it's a 80-20 rule. When you reach 80% of any capacity, teaching space. I'm struggling with this mic today.
That's good. I'll just bump mine so we can feel better.
There you go. Teaching space, parking space, sanctuary space.
Yeah.
The worship space. If you max out
uncomfortability, right? Once you cross over 80, people start feeling their shoulders rubbing and stuff.
They feel like they don't have room for them, whatever. Well, listen, 2819 is challenging that
100%,
because they have 3 services, and the parking lot was full. They were in overflow parking. Overflow parking was full when I was there at 10:30 trying to park, and it wasn't until people came out from the other service that they were able to move their cars, and then I was able to get a parking spot. I don't know what the very opening of the service looked like. Maybe they have some sort of announcements or something or offering then. before we were able to actually get in because he had run late and, we were out in the line. But when we went through that cheerleading line and walked in, they're already playing. Like music is going, it's loud, which I love.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm all about it.
Give me the volume.
Give me the volume. There's a word in connection with worship that I cannot find in the Bible, and that is reverence.
Mm-hmm.
I've been challenging that lately. It's not there. As a matter of fact, anytime we see worship, like corporate worship, it's play the loud cymbal, sing a new song, and
dance unto the Lord, dance like David.
Right. I mean, like all these things that are really, I just cannot find in connection with singing a song or connection with like corporate worship. I cannot find reverence. Now, I'm not saying there's not a reverence for the Lord. There should be reverence for the Lord, and there should be reverence for his house, and we should care about what we're doing. I'm not saying we should be irreverent, but I am saying that I think that we hide dead worship under the name reverence.
Man, that's new. I mean, new, but I would totally get it. I tell my teenagers all the time, hey, be good Bereans, go out and seek it out. So, I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna go look up reverence in the Bible and worship and do a study on it. But you're my pastor, I trust, but I'm telling you, that's why I don't know how I can say it's new to me. I've heard you say things like that before. But it's you're right, and sing a new song. People get bent out of shape about, new things. So,
we just got a new screen at church.
Oh man. I sat down last night, and I'm not talking from an adult. I had a teenager be like, "Hey, Paul, what's that?" And I was like, "That's a LED wall."
Do you really not know what that is?
I was like, "What are you really asking here?"
Yeah.
And they're like, "Well, do we have the money for that?" And I'm like, "Do you know the backstory to that?" And they're like, "Well, no." And so already, night one, and I watched my brother Bill, who is not with us this morning, probably because he's exhausted. But I watched that guy over 2 days just battle challenge after challenge and, jump through hoops and hurdles. People are never going to know the amount of work that guy did to make this come off.
Or how special that is what we just put up.
Oh, my goodness. And I just hit the high level things. I'm like, this is a very expensive endeavor. And they're like, yeah, that's right. And we don't have the money for that. And I was like, yeah, but we got it for this. And they're like, oh. And I was like, yeah, and to replace the projector that we had was this. And they're like, oh. I was like, yeah, it's like you have wise people making wise decisions on your behalf. So settle down.
Right.
So not to say that I know it all. Please don't hear that.
It's going to be really hard for me to not pull off my famous line of, if you don't like it, you can leave.
Oh, bro, I know.
Because there's a large part of me that wants to just be like, if you're bent out of shape because we took a gift, and yes, was there a cost to us putting it up? Yeah, there was a cost to us putting it up, but I don't know that I should never say never, but I don't see another time in our future that we're going to get a $100,000 screen done for $16,000.
Yeah, it doesn't happen. I mean, it is a gift and it is a blessing. And, this is a color of the carpet discussion. Oh, yeah. Now, I don't want to cheapen people's ability to look into church finance and to question. But it should be a question of, I'm sure there's something here that I don't understand. I'm sure there's more to this story, and I don't have all of it. And I just pray. My prayer for our church family, I don't want to come down on anybody. My prayer is that they would come with a questioning attitude and not a
I think
not a demanding.
Something that I always like to say is that it's good to question as long as you're willing to accept an answer.
Oh yeah.
But if you already have an answer in your mind, you don't actually have a question. So you're using questions to try to prove your point. Yeah. And that's different, And so my point there would be to say, like you said earlier, what's the reason you're asking this right now?
I mean, there's a lot to that, and I knew these conversations were coming.
I literally knew. I was talking last night. Kirk and Bill and I think Jordan was there, and they were like, "Oh, nobody's going to be upset about the screen," and I went,
"Yeah."
Okay.
I mean, where is your rose-colored glasses coming from, man? I mean, everything in the right light, I guess. But
listen,
I've already got it.
I'm all for it. I'm all for getting real hard nosed and being like, look, we're moving forward and not backward. And we were operating on 1990s technology with that screen.
which is
had.
ancient, by the way, 1990s.
Yeah.
19th century. Jeff.
19th century. We were operating on a projector that started with 19.
Oh man, yeah, I
So-
saw a T-shirt the other day. It says, "I'm from the 1900s. You wouldn't understand," or something like that. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh,
Right.
yeah, that's true. Anyways,
Well, I mean, the size, I think that one thing that, people have to understand is we, again, by all standards, like we're operating on a screen that was made for a room a quarter of the size of what we have.
Yeah.
If you got in the corners of where we are now, the screen looks like a little cell phone screen.
yeah,
From your perspective, because it's so far away. So, there is a purpose for having a big screen. And
just put a pin in that for a minute. If you were there last night on our first worship night,
Oh.
dude, it was awesome.
Yeah.
Now, anytime I get excited by the tech or the smoke or the mirrors or the lights or whatever, I'm always like, I'm cautious. Like, I don't want that to be a production either. But by the same token, I want to give the Lord our best, man. I had such a great time last night. I could read all the words. It wasn't distracting. Like it allows you the space to enter in the heart of worship. I mean, it's not the catalyst. It's not the thing. The
Right.
Lord and the Holy Spirit's the thing. But
yeah, that's right.
I mean, it would be foolish to say that some of that doesn't play in.
It's okay to have something cool.
It is, and
You didn't do anything wrong to have
yeah,
something cool.
exactly. So, anyways, yeah, that's I'm excited for where our church is going, but anyways, I think we left off. You had just made it through the greeters.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and we'd taken communion. So we get inside, and I was a little taken back by the size of the sanctuary, in the sense of I thought it would have been bigger from what I had seen from the number of people outside.
Really?
I mean, they could probably hold. Again, I don't know. Somebody could correct me on this if you've ever been in there and counted, or their number of seats. But I would say 1,000 to 1,500
Man.
is what they have in this. I mean, our sanctuary is bigger. Like
Yeah.
our room is bigger than what I was in.
Oh man.
And so they have a big stage, and it almost takes up the whole left to right of the room. They have a really cool screen going on.
Hey.
So they had like two big screens, left and right, that if you were like where we were, because we were way off to the right. And so, it was easier to look at that screen than it was to see him. He looked kind of small compared to, being able to look at the screen where they had zoomed in on him.
Yeah.
And dude, they have a camera crew. Like, it's going.
Yeah.
And the music was already going. We walked in. So I didn't see.
Was it like a band, or was it just like house music?
No.
that
It
just
was the
bumping?
band. Like they were worship
Wow.
music's going on. As we're walking in, worship music is going crazy. They're not playing. I mean, they're stomping on the stage, and like it was cool.
Dude.
And so they're singing worship songs, and we just jump right in. And by the way, they don't let us, or at least by the time it got to us, they're 3/4 full, and it looked like it had started from the one side, and they had worked their way in. And so when we had come in the door, we didn't go far across the walkway. They're like, okay, you're here, and we were like, hey, we got a big group. Can we all sit together? And at first the lady's like, no, you just got to sit. You got to sit in order. And we're like, we just drove from Kentucky. I don't really want my kids to have to sit way over there and we're over here. And she's like, okay, you guys can go over there and we'll put the next, because it wasn't like they were lacking people coming in the door. So they let us kind of move over because we asked, but they were funneling everybody and then telling them like, this is your row. It wasn't like walk in and go choose where you want to sit. They were definitely
Typical
ushering
Baptist style. I'm going to sit here by, Joe and Susie in the youth group,
Right, exactly. It was definitely not that. It
Yeah.
was like, this is where we can put you.
That's
So-
what happens when you cross that 80-20 rule. You just start, all right, this is where you park and this is where you
Yep.
sit and this is the gospel you get today.
Yeah, man, it was very interesting in that way. And
Yeah.
and I'll say, I mean, I didn't. There were certain things I didn't love, and I loved the experience. I loved it. I thought it was great. So I don't have any like bad critiques. I do have thoughts about what he said, and I'll come to that because I know that's a big topic right now.
Oh, man, it's apparently everywhere. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
So so worship had already started. There was no announcement. Something I noticed too, they didn't take up an offering, or at least again, I was a few minutes late, and we were only 3/4 full, and it filled all the way up. I'm talking end to end, every seat. There was not an empty seat in the house, and plus all the camera crew and all the volunteers and people standing around, and so it was full, and they had 3 overflow rooms after the.
I just can't help but get this vision out of my head with all of those people outside. They ought to have LED walls on the outside of the building and just project the service in the parking lot.
I mean, I think you could potentially do that.
I bet you it would fill up.
Yeah.
I mean, what? So I'm speaking into things I don't know, but I would say they're either in the place because he's at 3 sermons, and I've watched briefly how that guy preaches. he preaches his guts out.
Yep.
3 times in a row that day.
Yep.
You know, I mean, there's difference if you're like calmly delivering the message and you don't, you know, your blood pressure doesn't get up and you're not sweating bullets. And you said it's one service right into the next. He might get 10 minutes down, get a drink of water.
Oh, literally, it couldn't have been that because he came up, so they're already playing music. Now maybe they had played a song before I got in there. Okay, so it could have been that there could have been a announcements, offering, and a song before I came into the song. But if they did that, they're doing announcements, offering, and song when there's only a quarter of the people in the room.
Yeah.
Because we're all filing in. So it sure seems to me like they just open up with, as you come in, they're already going.
Yeah.
And you're just jumping in with what they're doing. And which I thought was cool. I loved that aspect of it. And so, but in the second song, Philip Anthony Mitchell comes out and he's on the stage like worshiping with them. And he's not leading the songs, but he is definitely like leading the congregation. He is, you know, grabbing a microphone and yelling in the microphone. And, you know, at one point, I think he literally was yelling like worship, you know, into the microphone, and he's stomping on the stage, and he was wild.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I'm like, man, I wish I was just that unhindered, just unhinged, but I'm not. But I'm not going to be fake of who I am. Like I'm not. That's not my personality. I don't do that. That would be me faking it if I did that.
Yeah.
If the Lord really like was moving on me, and then I would. But I've never on my own had the thought to, you know, grab a microphone and scream into it, worship.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, it's got. I won't manufacture anything.
Yeah,
but I loved getting ideas and being like, oh, that's cool. You know? So he's like the hype man of the crowd he's like, at one point he goes over to somebody singing and he like high fives him like 4 or 5 times in a row, and you know he's hyping them up. You know he's hyping everybody up, and so then they after the second song they did communion. He led the communion, and it was long. I mean, it was as long as a sermon. You know, he takes. No, you know, he's not worried about time in any way. He's, you know, he has at one point he's got it holding up the cup and he's like, just leave it up there. Let it hurt. He's like, it ought to hurt. You ought to remember what Christ did for you. Let that hurt. You know, he's like, I know you want to put your arm down right now. Don't. And I was like, man, I love that. Like, but Brother Joe did a really cool job with us on Sunday.
Yeah, I did. I wanted to get to the meat of the sermon this past Sunday. So I Brother Kirk, forgive me, but I skipped through worship and even communion because I didn't have the elements with me. So I was like, yeah. But I knew Joe was doing communion. I was praying for him.
So, dude, if you get a chance, go back and watch what Joe did. Yeah, man, he did a good job. He wasn't wild and, you know, exuberant. You know, he didn't have his hold our hand up the whole time or something. Yeah. But man, he had a really great analogy. It was really cool. Dude, you should totally watch it. He did a great job. Okay. But he was nowhere near the length that Philip took. Oh, man. You know, Philip took probably 25 minutes, you know, to do communion. And it was cool. He did a great job. And then so come out of communion and they sing another song. He's still out on the stage hyping everybody up the whole time. And then and so that's what I'm saying. I'm like, man, this guy's voice, like he's going for hours and hours and hours on a Sunday. Yeah. And then he goes through, you know, then he gets into a sermon and he talks about how he was going to get into the book of Ephesians, which I thought was kind of cool because we're doing that on Wednesday nights. Yeah. And so he's talking about how he's going to get into Ephesians, but he felt the Lord kind of telling him to do something different for these, you know, upcoming weeks, because the following week, one of the things he brings up is the following week they're going to have baptisms. Oh, yeah. And dude, I don't know if you've heard about this. So I'm there in the audience, and he says that next week we're not going to have in-person service because they're going to have baptisms. So they're going to go to another location to go baptize. Yeah. I didn't know what the location was. I couldn't repeat it to you, but it was something that everybody local there knew. Yeah. And he said they had 3,000 people registered to be baptized. Oh, my goodness. So, yeah, they're going to have a baptism service. 3,000 people are getting baptized the following Sunday from the one we were there, which I'm like, I'm glad we got here this Sunday. Yeah. You know, because otherwise we'd have made the trip and wouldn't have been nobody there. Yeah, yeah. But I don't know. It would have been cool probably to see the baptism too. But so they had 3,000 scheduled. Well, since then, I've seen on their website 4,800 baptized. Oh, my. So they had 3,000 on the schedule. And I don't know how many, you know, maybe jumped on the schedule between last Sunday and the Sunday that they did it, and you know how many were impromptu while they were there. But dude, growing by 1,800 in baptisms
Week over
in
week.
1 week.
Oh man.
That is a crazy.
Yeah.
Man, that's awesome. And so that really happened. I saw that story just yesterday. 4,800 people baptized, and I was like, man, he said 3,000 when we were there. 3,000 people registered. So man, he preaches the whole sermon, and I thought it was great. He during the communion. This is the really great part. Man, you know that I've been struggling with my back for a long time.
Yeah.
And I'm, you know me, like, you know me well, man. I don't fake stuff. I'm not a name it and claim it person. I'm not a blab it and grab it kind of preacher. You know, I'm telling you, he says, Philip says that he's like, I think the next thing the Lord has for me in my ministry is miracle signs and wonders. Mm-hmm. Like, I think he was like, I feel the Lord telling me that's the next thing happening in my ministry. And he said, what I want you to do right now, this was during the communion. He's like, I want you to, he was like, man, if you need healing in here, he was like, I want you to put your hand on that part of your body right now. He's like, put your hand on that part of your body. And man, I didn't. And I actually just talked about this on Happy Chaos with Kelly because of her, what happened with her in it. But I'm just talking about my experience right now in this. Like, I wasn't being rebellious. I was just zoned out. And I was, it was cool as a new crowd. There's, famous, preacher on the stage. Dude, it was just cool. Like the whole thing was a cool experience. And so I'm just kind of in it. And when he says that, I'm just taking in what he's saying. I'm studying and loving it. And then he said this line though. He goes, what do you have to lose right now? It's like, what do you have to lose? It's like you've come to church. You came here to encounter the Lord. I'm telling you, put your hand on the part of your body that hurts. What could possibly go wrong on the other end of that? Yeah. And he's like, you have nothing to lose. Why
are you holding back?
Right. And I was like, just snapped in my head. I was like, what am I doing? Like, why am I not? And so, dude, I reached back and I put my hand on my back and my hip where it's been hurting so bad. And Philip began to pray. Brother, I'm telling you, I'm looking you right in the eye and telling you, I felt the pain relieve in sequential order from my hip, worked its way down my leg over probably like a 5-second period. It was like a drain. Like it just like stopped hurting. And it was like I felt it. And I'm telling you in that moment, I'm like, are you kidding right now? Like, and by the way, I had to sit down. Everybody was standing for communion. They're all standing with their cups. And I'm sitting because my leg was hurting so bad I had sat down. And still I wasn't just, like I said, man, I was not being rebellious. It was not like I'm not going to put my hand on my hip. I just didn't. And then when he said, what do you have to lose? I did. He starts praying, and I'm telling you, the pain left, gone. Like, dude. I'm like, and so then I'm like, did that just? So then I start getting in my own head. I'm like, well, what if I stand up? What happens if the pain comes back? Because I wanted, deep down, I wanted to like grab Kelly and be like, Kelly, like, my leg, my back. But dude, I'm going to tell you, I don't know if it's fear. I don't know what to say of like, I don't know why I didn't say anything. I just didn't. And so I just sat there and I was kind of in amazement. I'm like, what, I know what just happened, I think, but I guess I was worried that, I'm going to like, tell everybody my leg's healed, and then I'm going to get up and get 2 steps down the steps and be like, oh, my back. And which is actually really funny because, so my back is still better. Leg is still better. I'm telling you, like, I'm doing burpees and jumping jacks and just back to normal. Like, and so feel good. Like my back feels good. My leg feels good. There's been a couple of times that I've had like an ache and I'm like, oh no. Yeah. But dude, it hasn't. And I told that story on Happy Chaos, and somebody heard it, and they were at church last night, and they said, "Oh, I totally get where you're coming from, because I've had things like that happen, and then I'm scared that, well, if that happens and I testify, and then it's it flares back up, or I have more complications or whatever, then they're going to be like, oh, I thought you were healed." Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, I don't know that I was really fearful of that as much as like I just don't want to falsely testify to something that's not. I don't know. I mean, we just hear what sure looks like a lot of false testimonies and things like that. And so I don't want to be a part of that. I'm just telling you, I'm being cautious, I guess. I want to testify and I'm willing to testify. I will publicly declare what happened while I was sitting there. And I'm telling you, my leg was healed in the moment and is still that way right now.
Yeah.
But in that moment, I didn't know it was going to last,
Yeah.
you know? And so I hope that doesn't sound like lack of faith, because I don't feel like I'm a man.
No, I mean, I think anybody would, you know, I have been guilty of getting excited about things, you know, whether it's, I don't want to say, I don't want to, not in the same vein of miracles, but say, you know, finances or things related to the school. I get really excited about this thing and I tell a lot of people about it, and then it doesn't come to fruition exactly the way I wanted it. Or, and then it's like you got egg on your face, you know, and nobody wants that. But this, I mean, I think, I don't know. I don't have the answer, but I'm just puzzling through it in my own mind right now. And I would say we say miracles happen all the time. We read about them in the Bible. I believe they happen today. And I also have a hesitation. Anytime somebody gives me something miraculous, my natural mind goes, you know, like I always go through did that really happen thing? And you're telling everybody and myself that even as pastors, like we shout this from the rooftops. It's totally possible. And when it happens to us, what do? It's like, I'm going to give it time, or I'm going to process it. Like, you know, there's no difference there, but the concern being, is it disingenuous or something like that? And you know what? I would say, and this is just Paul in the moment, I would say we need to make it okay to shout the good things of the Lord. And even if, in your case, even if you were to have a week of I'm completely healed, what would have happened in that week? You would have got to go on vacation with your family. Yeah. You'd have got to run and play and be on the beach and not be in pain and all those things or whatever. And come back and be like, it's set back in. Well, you could focus on it set back in, or you can focus on I was miraculously healed for a week and I was able to do things I hadn't been able to do in months. Good point. There are blessings in all of that. So, you know, man, but honestly, it's encouraging for me to hear you say that, because I'm telling you, I feel the same way.
It was such an interesting feeling to think, like, the things that were like running through my head, like, do I say it? Do I not say it? When do I say it? You know, if I don't say it now, then when do I bring it back up? And then I was thinking this, I'm like, if I don't say it now, then how do I tell Kelly later, like, oh yeah, while I was at church,
I got healed while I was out there. Yeah.
So actually crazy into that. So I know I'm kind of jumping back and forth in the story, but the crazy part of that is we went on vacation. We met some of her family they came up. They drove 7 hours up from Vero Beach and met us in Panama City. And so they went and got in the pool. Mm-hmm. Her family did. And when they knew we were pulling in. And so we went and changed real quick and took the kids down to the pool. And then they saw their, you know, family in the pool, and we met there. And so we're having this initial meetup with her family that she hadn't seen in months. And, you know, we're having this initial meetup and we're in the pool, which is kind of awkward, you know, meetup. It wasn't, I don't know, you know, some things you don't think through, and, you know, meetup in the pool was like, all right, well, here I am in the pool. You're like, so this is literally how it happened. They had all got out of the pool and I was still down in the water, and her sister says something about 2819, and Kelly did not love the whole of the experience like I did. She didn't like all the, you know, kind of wild exuberance. I do. I'm like, man, I want to be like David. You know, I'm gonna keep my clothes on, but I'm, you know, like I want to dance like David. Yeah. I always think that when we sing, I want to dance like David. I'm like, do you?
Do you really?
Do you really? Would you go all the way?
Say, go back and read it again. Now tell me.
Would you do it all the way? Yeah. I don't know. But anyways, I loved all of it. Kelly didn't. So she's telling her sister that. And I can't remember exactly what her sister said that sparked Kelly. Remember, I'm down in the water. Okay. Yeah. Like I'm in the pool there on the concrete, and I'm floating in the water. And Kelly said something, and they said something about him talking about healing. And Kelly looks down at me and she was like, did you get healed at 2819? Dude, I hadn't said anything all day. Yeah. Like did not say anything to her. And I was like, well, I need to talk to you. And she's like, I thought it happened. And I'm like, well, where were you? And by the way, how do you think I got healed and still look at a service and go, I didn't love it?
Yeah, so, all that, yeah.
And that's actually where I'm at with the last part of the sermon. Man, it's weird because I have this experience, but I'm telling you, I experienced a healing in my back and my leg. I've had a sciatic nerve problem for what's it been, 6 weeks now?
Yeah.
That I've been limping around and hurting. And by the way, I was going to tell you that story when I was at church, even last night. I mentioned that I got healed. We were praying for everybody. And then at the end of service, I went to go sit down. And as I went to my seat and I went to go sit down, I kind of grunted. I was like, ugh, and like sat down and I was going to talk with this guy. And he literally looks at me and he goes, I thought you got healed. And I'm like, see, that's the whole thing. You know, he didn't know I'd said all this other stuff about it. He just knew that I'd said in church last night I got healed. And then I grunted. I was like, man, my back got healed. Yes, I'm still old.
Yeah.
You know, like, what do you want me to do?
I can still grunt when I get up and sit down.
Right.
Yeah.
I also grunt after I eat. I'm like, stretch it out. We call it the dad stretch. You know, that's where you let it down. You know, you stretch real far back and let it down. But anyway, so dude, all of this is like super great. And I loved every bit of this, the baptisms, the whole thing. I just want to be clear before I say this last part, man, I love Philip Anthony Mitchell.
Mm-hmm.
I love his ministry. I love seeing what he's doing. I love what he's doing in the city that he's doing. I thought the whole thing was awesome. So none of what I'm just saying my personal convictions in this last portion, because the whole thing that's been on the internet has been him selling tickets for the gospel.
Mm-hmm.
And so he gets up and at the end of the service, he talks about two things. And so you have to be able to separate those, that he's talking about access. Access is something they did last year. Mm-hmm. They rented a stadium out of the state and they all went there. And I shouldn't say the Lord filled up 2819 Church, took their ministry to a stadium and filled up a 40,000 person stadium for a one night event.
Yeah. They
didn't charge anything for that. And people came and they were prayed for and I don't know if there was baptisms or not, but people were saved. And dude, it was a big, awesome thing.
Mm-hmm.
He ended the sermon with an invite to this year's second year in a row access. This year they're renting AT&T Stadium. They're spending $2 million to rent this stadium for an evening. And they're going to fill up the stadium with 80,000 people. So they 40,000 last year, 80,000 people stadium this year is what they've rented.
Dude, that's so cool.
I'm telling you, I love that. Like I'm all for that. I don't know that I would have ended my sermon with that, but who am I? He's doing a lot of things right. So, dude, I was all about it. No charge for tickets, free tickets. Go to that. But he uses that to kind of segue into, hey, but I need to talk about this other thing. Mm-hmm. So I've got my podcast with Tim from Celebration Church called Street Preachers. And he was like, and I appreciated this portion. He said, I have never mentioned my podcast from this stage. Mm-hmm. He was like, I don't promote it. He was like, that is my personal social media ministry. But notice the word that he said there. He's like, that's my personal social media ministry. And so, he's calling it a ministry, but he's saying it's his personal thing. It has nothing to do with 2819 Church. Mm-hmm. And he's like, the only thing that's a connection of 2819 Church and that podcast is me. Mm-hmm. Like I'm the only connection point. He was like, I don't use this platform to try to promote that platform. And he's like, so, we've been going out and doing a tour with that from that podcast. And he said, so in that tour, we have been charging for tickets. And he's like, how do you think we're going to pay for, I think this is the clip you've probably seen. Like, how do you think we're going to pay for all that? Which, by the way, for the people who get mad at if you don't like it, you can leave line. Philip Anthony Mitchell, he called his people ignorant. So he was like, for all you ignorant people. So I was like, get them.
Yeah.
Tell them.
Oh,
man, I love gut punches. So I'm like, get on them. Yeah. And me too. I'm all about it. But he's talking about how he's selling tickets for $60. People are getting mad at him for these $60 tickets. And I don't love selling tickets to things.
I've gathered that.
You know that.
Good. I know that about you.
I don't love the church selling tickets, but I want to give be fair to something. His church, 2819 Church, is not selling tickets. Mm-hmm. He and Tim are going on tour with their podcast. Yeah. And they are selling tickets for these events to cover the cost of the event. Mm-hmm. Now, here's a word that I have for Philip. I don't think he'll ever see this or ever know that I'm saying this, but if he ever does in some way, here's the encouragement I would give him. Billy Graham used to fill up stadiums and he never charged a dime.
Mm-hmm.
See what happened?
That's okay.
But
We still got our main.
that's right. But Billy Graham never charged for a ticket. I was a part of that. I went to one of those in Louisville, Kentucky in 98 or 99. I went to a Billy Graham crusade, filled up a whole stadium full of people. It was also wall-to-wall full, and he did not charge for tickets. He brought in DC Talk, the band, and had them play, and we know how expensive that can be. We've done that at church. Like, that's a huge endeavor to bring in a band. And so, I went to that because I didn't really want to see Billy Graham as much as I wanted to see DC Talk. And so, Billy Graham brought in DC Talk and had them play at a stadium and filled up a stadium and did not charge for tickets. And I'm not condemning Philip Anthony Mitchell or Tim, I can't think of his last name, but I'm not condemning them for selling tickets. I'm just trying to encourage them to say, brothers, y'all got a good thing going. And if you would by faith, step out by faith, the Lord will provide the people who can fund that tour. You could fund that tour without ticket sales, and you could still do it. And I think you would have literally, in his case, tens of thousands of people more who would attend.
Yeah.
And his wording that everyone is bothered by is that he has said, and I was there to hear him say it, that we're giving people the gospel. We're taking the gospel out, but how do you expect us to pay for that? So his defense is, we're paying for this out of our own pocket. So I'm with him. You're using ticket sales to pay for the event space, to pay. I totally get that. That is not you selling the gospel.
Yeah.
My word of caution is there are people who could benefit from your ministry, your ministry of miracle signs and wonders that are going to follow, that I personally experienced, that maybe that person could not get there because there's a cost. And so, for Philip, if you ever see this, here's my word for you. Like, I have a family with 9 children. For me to bring my children to come see you on tour would literally be
$1,000.
Yeah, you're talking for me to make the trip and pay for whatever. I mean, you're talking $1,000 for me to be able to go out that night to come.
$540. Sorry.
Well, $540 for the tickets.
Oh yeah.
But then there's the whatever other costs that would be incurred. So I'm telling you, as a family man with 9 children, if I was like, hey, I want to take my family and bring my family to come to you, and if there was a need, it could potentially be $1,000 night for me to come out and come
Food
see
and
you.
gas and travel.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
I see that.
And so my point to saying that is, man, there's no condemnation here, but I'm just saying you could potentially have lots more people, and I believe you would. I believe Philip Anthony Mitchell would have more people come if he didn't have the barrier of $60. And it's not just $60. He has some VIP tickets and other things. But man, that's still not the kind of part that I didn't like the most, which was what he did to justify those tickets. I'm not totally against him for selling the tickets. I wouldn't do it, and I would encourage him not to do it. But I would say step out in faith, and I'd step out and I would believe that somebody would fund that tour, that you'd get probably multiple people to fund that tour, and they would, and then you could do it at no cost. Find out what did you make last year when you did it. Take that cost, take what you did in ticket sales, and say, okay, well, Lord, if you want me to go, then this is what it cost us to get there. Put it in the Lord's hands and watch if somebody doesn't come up and say, hey, we'll fund that. We'll put that money in your pocket. Billy Graham did. They have an entire foundation that is still going even after the death of Billy Graham because of people that poured into that ministry because they believed in what he was doing. And so, but then he pulls out this example, and the example is picture of a woman that had come to one of his tours last year, and she had, proof of a baby with deformities. She was pregnant, and they had an ultrasound, and there was these deformities in this baby. And they got on their knees in front of her, and they prayed for her and laid hands on her belly. And he pulls out of the envelope a 5-page letter, and he pulls out a picture of, this was a year ago that they did the tour, and they're going to do it again. He's catching flack for that. So in justification of that, he's using this letter. This lady brought this letter, pulls out this picture of this healthy baby, and he's like, this is the result of what happened last year. And I'm all for that. I wish it had just stopped there. I wish he would have been like, this is what we're doing on our tour. But it's what he said. And man, I'm willing to give him grace for a blunder, for making a mistake. I'm willing to give that grace. But his words, I was live and present to hear it. His words were, where would we be if she had not bought that $60 ticket. And I was like, ugh. And he said, we wouldn't have this if she hadn't bought that ticket.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh man, dude, like we all make mistakes. And so, man, I'm telling you, I love him, love his ministry, love the church, love the experience. I was there. I was present for that thing that is now online, that going viral. People are talking. Josh Howerton was talking about on his podcast.
Yeah.
And so, man, I was present for it. And I'm telling you, I took a breath at that comment. Where would she be if she hadn't bought that ticket? And so, man, my word of caution for Philip in that is, don't let pride can be a problem for any of us. And I'm not accusing you of it. I'm just telling you, we have all got to fight pride. Man, it's not your work, and the Lord could have used anybody. And I'm reminded of Peter, who was walking into Jerusalem, and there was a man there begging for money, and Peter looked at him, and the guy couldn't walk. And Peter looked at him and said, silver and gold I have none, but what I have to you I give you freely. Take up your bed and walk. Mm-hmm. And that guy got up and walked away that day. And that, for me, that's, I don't know, that's always stuck with me. Man, I don't want to be poor my whole life. Just telling you that. Like, I'm not poor. I'm middle class. Yeah. but I'm lower middle class. Yeah. So I think by state standards I am poverty. But
yeah, I'm sure I'm there as well.
Right. I know, man. It's
I don't want to be that either. I don't want to get us too far off of that message and the heart of that. And what's really important out of that is, charging for the gospel and various other things. Like, I want to come back to Philip and his claim of miracle signs and wonders coming. Like, I think that's cool. I want to come back to that. But just on the financial side of things, brother, like what was it? Something fresh in my mind just a bit ago. Oh man, I'm gonna draw a blank on it. But anyways, even in my testimony over the past couple of years, like, there has been a massive shift, and there's something powerful to be said for fulfillment in what you're doing and success on a worldly stage. I don't have the influence even that you do, or Philip, or anything like that, and I don't care. Like, if the Lord gives it to me, good. But no, it was Mephibosheth. It was the story from last Sunday.
Yep.
Right? That guy had nothing. What he had was a death sentence against him, and David totally changed his circumstances.
Yep.
And at the end, he said, I would give it all away to be in the presence of the king. Man, that hit me just at the right moment, and in the right time. So for me to look at the thing, and one huge part of the sermon, the recent sermon, was, it's all the king's anyway. So apply it's not ours anyway to Philip's stance in this case. Brother, it's like you said, it doesn't have to come down to something as simple as don't sell tickets. Yep. It's not that simple. The fact of the matter is, miracles would have happened anyway, with or without that $60 ticket.
Yes.
But if so I'm going to combine those two things. And if Philip's stance is, I see in my future, or the Lord has revealed to me that miracles, signs, and wonders are coming, I am fired up for him, and I want to see that happen for the growing of the kingdom.
Yep.
If he's bold enough and humble enough to take his name off of it and make it about Jesus, and I feel like he will, then the kingdom will be grown dramatically through what he's about to do. And you are a walking, talking testimony for the healing power that you experienced at an event of which the Lord had ordained him to be there and lead. I just want to corroborate and say, all of the resources, all of the things that we need to make podcasts happen and live showings and all of that, they can be got without, because the gospel is the purpose anyway. And and healing and miracles and signs and wonders are all going to happen anyway. So I felt a conviction when I heard your message from last Sunday, and it was a reminder to me. Like I got to be careful saying these things because I don't want to come off, oh, look at me, I'm so humble. First off, I joke with my youth group all the time. You can ask any of them. I tell them all the time, I was like, I am so humble. I am the most humble guy you'll ever meet, and I'm so humble. I teach humility classes on Tuesday nights, and they know that I'm joking. They know it's not humility classes, man. It's important. You got to be the most humble. And yes, they know I'm kidding, but it's just part of the.
It's like the
joke.
argument at the end of Deuteronomy.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Moses passes, and it says that he's the most humble, and of course Moses wrote the first 5 books, and people are like, wait a minute, like you can't. How are you going to be humble and say you're the most humble?
Exactly, man. So maybe that was my subconscious inspiration for that. But anyways, from that approach, if you land on all of this is the Lord's anyway, it's not about me. You could take me out of this and still make moves for the kingdom. And even in that, I'll admit to him and to you and anybody else that it's not that easy all the time. But conviction and the truth comes in many forms, and I'm with you, and not just because you're my pastor, and not just because you're somebody that I look up to, but I'm telling you that just the feeling that I get from that is, miracles can happen regardless of, ticket costs or what you feel you need to grow that ministry.
Yeah.
So anyways, I could belabor the point, but that's where I'll land. None of this, from the spiritual gifts to the power of the Spirit to the financial resources that the Lord gives us, none of it's ours anyway. And if we look at it that way, you're going to be better off for life. So
yeah, and I'm totally with you at piggybacking off of that with think about David when David wanted to build the Lord a house. And what did the Lord say? David's like, I want to build the Lord, I dwell in this house of cedar and you're in a tent. And he's like, I want to build you a house. And the Lord says, I don't need you to build me a house.
He says, you're not the right person.
Yeah, you're not the right. He's like, and he says, I don't need you to establish me. I'm going to establish you.
Mm-hmm.
And man, I think that that's a word even for us today. And especially when you're talking about growing platforms and, podcasts and tours and ticket sales and all of those things. Listen, the Lord is establishing Philip Anthony Mitchell. And I think Philip knows that. I'm not challenging that he doesn't know that. I'm just saying it's not like, okay, Philip is bringing miracle signs and wonders. No, the Lord is allowing Philip to use miracle signs and wonders. The Lord is allowing him to grow in his platform, to grow and for his church to grow. And there's a responsibility that he has, that I have, that you have, which is look at Revelation, look at the Lord walking amongst the candlesticks. And he says, I'll remove your lampstand.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes for all of us. I mean, the warning for every single one of those churches, even the church of Laodicea, the warning was repent or I will remove your candlestick. Even the church, he was like, hey, you're doing all this great stuff, but I've got this one thing against you. And again, the whole thing was, if you've got ears to hear, let them hear, repent, turn away from that. The Lord wants us to humble ourselves, repent of the things that we need to repent of. And so pride is one of those. And again, I'm not accusing him of pride. I'm just saying we are all susceptible to it. Philip is not growing the kingdom is growing Philip.
Mm-hmm.
And, he might be furthering the mission, but man, the humility of that is to say, oh man, the Lord is allowing me. The Lord is doing that in me, not the other way around,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And again, I know that if I was to ever have a chance to sit with Philip at a table and say that, he would totally agree with that. He knows that. He doesn't think that, but man, that's that tricky thing about pride is we don't always see it because
it's hard to see it in yourself.
Oh man, it's so hard to see it.
And that's, recently I've given advice to young men and women that have graduated the youth group and moved on. And it was this, and you may remember this, you may not, but it was find people in your life that'll tell you the truth, not friends that just pour honey in your ear.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a time, it's probably been years ago now. I came to you and a pastor of other men, and I'm like, all right, give me some honest feedback on my life. And I asked a few targeted questions. And I had people tell me hard truths. And out of that, I grew, I think, I hope. But, if Philip were here, first off, I think you would agree with 99%, if not everything that you're saying. But pride, one way to combat pride is to find actual believers in your life that are going to tell you the truth and are going to deliver the truth in love, but they're going to call out the hard things in you, because it is so hard to see. It is the trap that every man and woman faces. Suddenly you get a taste of success, and suddenly it's about the venue, or it's about the healings or the baptisms, or it becomes about something, and then it's always a trap. I'm just going to draw this analogy real quick. I'm teaching and training young students, youth group students all the time, and
then an entire school,
yeah, that as well. And I'm trying to, sexual temptation is a big part. Like, they're all kind of stepping into that season, so we're speaking truth against that. And then here you go. I'm 40-ish. I'm coming up on 40. I'm not quite there yet, but I'm getting there. And So I have that perspective, and I'm like, you know what? It seems it never goes away. And I'm like, but surely someday the Lord will make me mature enough that I will be able to walk away from that type of temptation. And then I go to my brothers, my elders in the church, and I'm like, brothers, please tell me that someday this temptation goes away. And I've had 70, 80, 90-year-old men look me dead in the eye and be like, never.
Yeah.
It never gets any easier. And you know what? I just want to encourage people that if you're struggling with pride, look at it in that light. It will never get easier.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what position you're in. It doesn't matter what ministry you run. Pride is always a trap.
Yeah.
Especially when success comes knocking.
Yeah, it's the truth. Sometimes, true humility happens when you have the ability to succeed, or you have the ability to not endure something, or you have the ability to punish someone, but you don't. Like, think about the Lord. The Lord is truly humble in the fact that of anything that you would remember, that he's like on the cross, and like, if you're really the Lord, come down from there. He totally could have.
Yeah.
And it would have been to the detriment of all humanity, including the men who were standing there.
Yeah.
If he had revealed himself in all of his glory in that moment and come off of that cross. But humility, the Bible says that the Lord humbled himself even unto the point of death, even the death of the cross.
Mm-hmm.
And think about that as what true humility actually is. Humility is not the weaker guy who can't beat the stronger guy.
Mm-hmm.
Humility is the stronger guy who could easily whoop the weaker guy, but he humbles himself and he doesn't. He lets the weaker guy. We're going to come up on this upcoming Sunday. There's this guy that's going to throw rocks at David and cuss him.
I remember that.
Yeah, Shimei.
Yeah.
And he's going to throw these rocks at David, and David's like, leave him alone. Brother, that's humility.
Mm-hmm.
David could have said, kill them, get rid of him.
Yeah.
But he didn't. And so he has the ability, but he doesn't. He humbles himself. That's true humility. Humility is not, in the case of take somebody who's some pastor who's going to rail on Philip Anthony Mitchell for selling tickets on this upcoming Sunday. He's going to use that as a talking point in his 50-person church. He's not humble. He's literally the opposite of humble.
Mm-hmm.
And if Philip Anthony Mitchell goes and speaks into that guy's life and blesses him and says, forgive him, Lord, he doesn't know what he's talking about, which is what I'm going to use as, by the way, for the throwing rocks thing.
Okay. I'll be ready. I'm
prepping you.
Yeah.
But man, like, if Philip's like, hey, look, that guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Lord, forgive him. That's humility,
mm-hmm.
because Philip has every right to blast him and say, you don't know what you're talking about. You're ignorant. You're whatever. But humility says, I could do it. I'm powerful enough to do it. I'm strong enough to do it. I'm rich enough to do it. I have enough platform to do it, but I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to. I'm going to humble myself. I'm going to lower myself. It's somebody that's higher that lowers themselves. That's true humility.
Mm-hmm.
And man, it's one of the shocking attributes of God. A few months ago, maybe a year ago, I did a study at church called The Attributes of God.
Mm-hmm.
And I divided it into two parts. And it was the communicable attributes of God and the incommunicable attributes of God. There's incommunicable attribute. God is the Alpha and the Omega. He is eternal. Now, he's created us with an eternal component, but we have a start point.
Mm-hmm.
God has no start point. Always, ever was. He's completely infinite. We're finite. So an attribute of God is his infiniteness. I can't have that. I am not infinite.
Yeah.
Like he's omnipresent. I cannot be omnipresent. I'm in one place. Those are incommunicable attributes. But then there's communicable, like a disease, if you would.
Yeah.
You can communicable.
Something that you can garner from. You can
Right.
you can take and run with.
And so there are lots of attributes of God that he's created us in his image. God is love. Well, he's shared that with us.
Mm-hmm.
God is light. In him is no darkness at all. He shared that with us. One of the communicable attributes of God but it's so shocking to think about God this way, is that he's humble. If I think about God in his grandeur, in his glory, I think about his throne room surrounded by a rainbow that he made.
Yeah.
On a crystal sea that I fully can't really even understand what that really means.
Mm-hmm.
Surrounded by angels that cry, holy, holy, holy for all of eternity. And I think about that, and then to read in his word that he humbled himself. He lowered himself. He had the ability, he's higher than,
Mm-hmm.
but he lowered himself to us. Like our God is just and he's righteous and he's good and he's holy and he's awesome and he's humble.
Yeah.
That is the craziest thing if you really dive into that, the humility of our God, that he will humble himself.
Yeah.
Man, it blows my mind. I mean,
the thing that keeps coming in my mind is he walked in the garden with Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
An all-powerful, outside time, glorious, radiant God, took time to do that. Hey, this is my creation, and it's good.
Yeah.
I'm going to walk with that. And then to carry that further as he sent Jesus, who also had the power, had the backing of angel armies that could have come down off the cross. I think from the beginning of human history and understanding, all the way to today, I haven't done a study on it, but I am confident that you could see instance after instance after instance of God. Does he need to listen to us? No, not at all. But when when Jacob, who was pleading on behalf of Lot in the city? Abraham, thank you, my brain.
That's all right.
When Abraham
It's early.
Yeah, it is. For those that don't know. But when he was pleading on behalf, it was, Lord, this. No, can you give more in this and this and this? And God didn't have to do any of that.
Yeah.
But he took into account a lowly wretch, and we are better for it.
Mm-hmm.
His humility doesn't just lead to, oh, look how humble he is. It's not a humility for humility's sake. It's humility for our sake.
Yeah.
And man, that is a thing that will change your mindset. That is a heart posture that I hope that we can emulate. And, no matter how big a platform gets, or, I actually just spent some time this past weekend at the Billy Graham Training Center in North Carolina, at the Cove. It was wonderful. And I learned more about Billy Graham in an afternoon than I ever knew about the guy. I didn't have the opportunity in '98 to go hear him speak. I heard Franklin Graham speak once, but...
Well, I was young and I was there for ZT Talks. So
yeah, that's fair enough.
There's that.
It's all good. But I was looking at some of the crusades and some of the things that they were doing.
Oh, dude, it's awesome.
I was like, man, that is so cool. But no matter how big your platform gets, it'll never be as big as God's. It'll never be as impactful or powerful as what the Lord himself can do. So, but back to our original point, pride is always a trap. It doesn't matter what your name is. It doesn't matter if you get so famous that people use all three of your names.
Yeah.
I just keep wanting to call him Philip. I bet his buddies call him Phil, whatever. And I do hate that about, once you become so famous, you're no longer your name anymore. You're like da 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 da. Anyways.
Yeah.
But no matter how big your platform gets, keep in mind that the Lord is bigger. And, pride is always a trap, so be on the lookout. So that would be my encouragement. And honestly, someday if the Lord were to choose to use you or me in that capacity, I hope we could look back on a day like today and remember and have the same heart posture of, hey, we didn't have anything. We were that little guy shouting at the giant. But that's the real struggle.
Philip's got a little bit to go because there's one more step after we use all three names.
Oh, what's that?
It's two initials in the last name.
Oh, my goodness.
C.H. Spurgeon, D.L. Moody, R.A. Torrey. So one day, Philip, it's got to be P.A. Mitchell. Okay?
Yeah. Oh
It's,
man, he'll be P.A. Mitchell on all of the studies and all the books and all the things. Yeah. Yeah. I never put that together before, man. That's good. That's the next level.
Yeah, the next level is when you become your first two initials and then your last name.
Yeah.
You know, so and even that, I mean, think about it. Like when we talk about Spurgeon, we just say Spurgeon. You know, his name was Charles.
Yeah.
You know, but we call him Spurgeon.
Yeah.
That's how we know him. Man, and I'll tell you, this past Sunday at our own church, man, when we were going through, and I know you were at the retreat, and so you just watched it after the fact, but man, I was humbled. I wish I could say I was humble, but I'm not. Like some people feel that way, and I'm like, y'all saying I'm being humble. I'm not being humble. I'm being humbled. Like I'm in the presence of the Lord. So I had not written my sermon. Mm-hmm. I didn't write for the whole week. I took my computer in case I had an opportunity, but there was not an opportunity. Kelly is. It doesn't matter how early I get up, she will get up with me.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how late I go to bed, she will go to bed with me.
Yeah.
And so, which I love. I hope that didn't sound like something I don't. I literally love that. I want that. But it makes it difficult to get time alone to write, especially in a setting where we're like on vacation and trying to be there with each other. So I had really committed to like put all the gadgets and electronics away. And so, you know, I mean, I made maybe a couple of videos throughout the week, but only when it was, you know, everybody's taking a nap and I've got an hour, you know, then I did something. But otherwise, like I just kept it all away and totally focused on my family. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't write. And lately I've been getting car sick again. And so I could not write on the way home. There was no way I could do it. And so I drove 9 of the 11 hours. I drove the way home, and I didn't try to sit in the passenger seat and write because I knew I wouldn't be able to. So we got home late Friday night. So I got up Saturday. This is Saturday before church, and I'm like, I got to write a sermon. Mm-hmm. And I knew the text. I knew, you know, it was going to be about, you know, Mephibosheth, this guy Ziba lying about Mephibosheth. And I didn't really know that I was going to jump forward in the text and look at, you know, how Mephibosheth reacts to that.
In chapter 19.
Yeah, I didn't know that I was going to do that when I sat down to write. I was like, okay, Lord, what am I going to do here? And it actually started for me because when I was actually sitting here at this table and I was reading that text and I was reading it and I thought to myself, I first started. So I do this thing. This is a little tip for you. When I go to write a sermon, I heard somebody say one time, they were like, there's 100 ways to preach a passage. And the first thing you have to do is just individualize the people who are in the passage. Mm-hmm. So look at it from God's perspective. Look at it from Moses' perspective. Look at it from Miriam. Like look at the people. So in my mind, I was doing that. What I'll do is I'll just read it over and over. And every time I read it, I try to think about a different person's. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, Ziba, you know, like why would he do this? Like why would this guy Ziba come out and lie about his servant Mephibosheth? Like, mm-hmm. why would he do that? I'm like, well, evidently he wanted the reward. He wanted greedy. Yeah, he was greedy. He wanted David to see him, not Mephibosheth, you know? And I'm sure that it's funny because I almost thought about bringing this up. I didn't bring it up in the sermon, but I feel like I've experienced what I was reading sometime in some ways because, man, I was like, I could see Ziba, who was the servant with David, now is forced to be the servant of Mephibosheth by David. Mm-hmm. And Mephibosheth, this guy, gets a seat at David's table. Mm-hmm. And so I could see a jealousy that could happen. I mean, you see what I'm saying when I say it? Like Ziba could have a jealousy of Mephibosheth. Mm-hmm. That's a reasonable thing. Yeah. And I'm like, man, Mephibosheth can't walk, dude. Like, would you really want to trade that? Would you really want to have to go live in Lo-Debar for your entire life, hiding from the king?
Living in fear, always wondering when you're going to die.
Right.
You know, like, when the king's going to catch you.
And then when he finally does catch you, remember Mephibosheth like fell on his face in front of David when they went and got him. Yeah. You know, he fell on his face. And so, but I say that because I was reading that from that perspective and I was thinking about myself and I'm like, man, I know people who have made jealous comments of me about like my life and being a pastor and you know, not being at Walker Fabrics, not being at my job, you know, at a day job anymore. And I'm like, you do realize that like I went through pretty extreme tragedy that happened.
To bring me here. The question being, would you want to switch places with me? And you and I know that answer.
Did we do that question here?
I don't think so.
Oh, really?
No.
Oh, dude, John Chris did a great question.
Oh boy.
He said, if you took all the people in the world,
Yeah.
and everybody writes their problems down on a piece of paper,
Mm-hmm.
and you put all those problems in a hat, do you keep yours or trade?
Oh man. I'm keeping mine.
I literally have not met anybody
Yeah.
who's like, I'm gonna trade. I'm
Yeah.
gonna play the odds.
Maybe there's somebody out there that has it that bad that would trade, but the vast majority, and I'm keeping mine.
And I've been through some stuff.
I know.
I'm keeping mine.
Yeah. So man.
So yeah,
that's a good way to look at that.
If you put everybody's problems down,
I
keeping yours or trading.
I've got this. This guy I subscribe to. I like what he says. In fact, I think I'm wearing one of his shirts. So he's a hunter, and he's not a Christian, but he's got a podcast and all this stuff. And I like. I think he's right on the cusp. He might be becoming a Christian and coming to church. Okay. His testimony is really cool. I'm praying for him. But he's been saying some good things lately. But anyways, his whole catchphrase is "must be nice," because people. He's like, everybody thinks I can go on these hunts and I do all stuff. He goes, I wake up at 3 a.m. and I run a marathon a day so that I can be ready to go hunt elk in the mountains. He's like, he's like, I worked a blue collar job the entire time, all this stuff. So his whole brand and platform is must be nice. People must really, you've got it so easy. It's like, yeah, I did this for 20 years before you guys even heard about me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it kind of comes back to exactly what you're saying. Would you trade all of the work to get where you are? No.
No way.
I would not roll a dice on anybody else's problems. The Lord has, and I think with that comes an awareness. Like the Lord has built me, equipped me, and made my testimony just so that I'm at the right place at the right time for His purposes. But at the heart of it, that's a really interesting way to put that question. Would you trade with anybody? No, sir.
And I'm not saying that if you gave me a specific, maybe I would.
Yeah, if
I'm rolling the dice, pull it. No, I'm
gonna pull them out of that fishbowl. I'm gonna stir them around like this and pull out somebody else's problems and read it and be like,
no, not this one.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was reading the text and I'm reading it from like Ziba's perspective, and I'm like, man, it seems like he might be a little jealous of Mephibosheth, which is crazy if you think about it. But man, I've experienced that. And so I started thinking, I'm like, I wonder how many other people are experiencing that. And if you stopped and thought about it, like you're jealous of somebody for their whatever. But to your point, what you were just saying, like, you don't know what they've gone through to be to that point. You don't know what you're doing when you're saying that. Like, and even if you do know what they've went through, here's another thing I'd give you, man, you don't know. I had a guy write me a letter when my wife passed away. And he was like, man, I don't know what you're like. I've never experienced this, but he was like, but I've often like he said this in his letter. He's like, I've often on my way home from work played out the scenario in my head of what it would be like if I lost my wife. And so I feel like in that way, I know what you're going through. And dude, I was so angry at that letter. And I was like, yeah. And then you went home and your wife was still there. Like you played a scenario in your head for 20 minutes, now wake up the next day and the next day and the next day. And in my case, wake up for the next 1,000 days, literally 1,000 days later, and they're still not there. Man, it's not a game. Like this isn't a role play. And so and I'm saying that to say, you don't know, you might know about what they've gone through, but you don't know what they've gone through. Yeah. And that's everybody. Man, I just tell people that all the time. We don't compare sufferings. So I'm looking at Ziba, and then I'm looking at David. I read the passage again. I'm looking at it from David's perspective. I'm like, man, David his own sons betrayed him, committed treason. Ziba's lying to him in the moment. David doesn't know that, but he's being betrayed by Ziba, and he feels as if he's being betrayed by Mephibosheth. And you see that when he says to Ziba back, he's like, you know what? Everything I gave Mephibosheth, it's yours. And so you kind of see this moment, and I'm like, man, at first I'm reading that. I'm like, man, David, no trial, no talking with him, no like, hey, I'm going to talk with Mephibosheth when I get back, or I'm going to execute Mephibosheth when I get back. None of that. He's just like, you know what? And I could see it. Could you imagine from David's perspective? I'm leaving the city to save the city from my own son who's going to try to kill me. And so David's like on his way out, and then Ziba comes up and tells him this: the guy that David went and pulled out of Lo-Debar, like this guy, and now he's betraying me too. Man, I don't know if I'd have been as kind as to have been like, you can have all this stuff.
Yeah.
I think I might have been even worse.
Yeah.
And so I started thinking to myself, I'm like, man, I think everybody probably has somewhere in their life, they've probably got some sort of betrayal. I think everybody's probably suffered that. You look at in the story, Ziba's betraying Mephibosheth. He's lying to David. David's thinking Mephibosheth betrayed him, but it's really Ziba, and he's going through this whole thing with his other son. So I just started kind of thinking about this, like, man, everybody's going through this. Everybody is going through some sort of betrayal, some sort of treason, some sort of, if you looked at it like, man, they shouldn't be doing that to me. I'm sure, you talk to somebody who's getting a divorce or,
Yeah. And that realization, I mean, it should be fresh for all of us. Don't compare sufferings. I love that. But by the same token, everybody's going through something. Life is messy because it's full of people. But at our heart, like if we can love like Jesus, if we can look beyond people's innate messiness, if we can be like Mephibosheth in the story and simply come back, and our only desire is to be at the table with the king, you've gotten the message.
Oh yeah.
You've figured it out. And I've read that before and I didn't put it together, So, I mean, the Lord is doing great things in our church, and I'm grateful you're there to bring those things up. So even as I say this, we've been talking about pride and all that for a bit, but brother, I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful for that message and even the new and fresh eyes on that. Man, and it hit me in a real way just the past couple of days. I had the opportunity to be super down about something, but I know the Lord has it, and I know no matter the outcome, I just want to be at the King's table. Mm-hmm. And you said something in the sermon, and man, it went straight to my heart, and it was, your money is the King's, your property is the King's, your family is the King's. And I'm telling you, I almost came undone when I heard that because of some things that are going on. I was just like, man, Lord, I just want to be at your table. Because all of that aside, I know the King wants what's best for me too.
Yeah.
And it was, it was a great sermon. Actually, and this is, again, I'm probably running the risk of pouring too much honey in your ear. I had somebody close to me the other day say, man, that was one of the best sermons I've ever heard Justin preach.
Oh man.
And here you are like, so I showed up Saturday and I had to write this sermon, and here you go. So,
dude, when I'm sitting at this table writing, I come into it with the idea of like, okay, everybody's going through betrayal. So I start writing the sermon under the, like, I'm coming at it from the perspective of like, everybody's been betrayed. Okay, so how are some ways I feel like I've been betrayed? And I'm writing those out. Dude, I was writing those from the perspective of, I'm telling you, typing on my computer at this table, I'm writing them from the perspective of like, yeah, I've been wronged too. And then I get to this chapter 19 and I'm watching what Mephibosheth did. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, I am really wrong. Like I'm telling you, I'm like almost weeping. I'm like, I can't believe, like I did it. I didn't mean to do it, but I did it. Like I'm, if I think about the way that I pray when somebody's wronged me, and I'm certainly not praying like Mephibosheth, like, all right, Lord, give it all to him. I just want to be at your table. No, I am telling you, when I said what I said in that sermon, I am guilty of like praying the way I want the Lord to do it instead of just giving it to him and trusting him that it's his. And so like that, like the first story that I told, like I'm telling that story, about somebody who lied about me in my house. And man, I'm telling you, like there was a time I was angry with them. And I'm like having this moment of deliverance, like, Lord, like I I don't want to be bitter at people. Like, I know I don't, but yet I'm realizing, like, as I'm writing a sermon, I still am, And so, man, the Lord just really convicted me. And even the same thing, I had written that story about letting somebody borrow my van, and then they kind of like did me wrong. And then I'm reading this with Mephibosheth, and I'm like, it's not my van.
Yeah.
Hang on it. It's not my van. Like
Yeah.
but even still, even when I say that, like my brain wants to be like, well, it is yours. And no, it's not. I'm stewarding it.
Yeah.
Like he gave it to me to steward. That's man. If the moment I see it from that perspective, it's funny. All the bitterness goes away.
Yes, you're absolutely right, and that's I think what people should take away from it. But I've got 2 questions, and I know we're running long on time, but here goes. One question. You mentioned earlier, I come before the Lord and I tell him what I want him to do to people that have wronged me, or what I want the outcome
or how to
look,
fix the situation.
Or, Lord, this is how you fix it.
Yeah.
So, and I may be getting this out of context, so correct me if I am. But when I also tell people, hey, be bold, pray for what you want of the Lord, bring your desires to Him. Now, I'm always caveat that with bring your desires to the Lord in whatever way you want. But pray, Lord, your will, not mine. Your purpose is bigger. This is what I would love to see. Lord, I would love for you to strike this person, smite them, but Lord, you first, So, I mean, is that still a good way to approach things? Can we bring things verbatim, specifically? Lord, I want to, people dream of winning the lottery. I mean, if you hear me out, if that's your prayer and you'd be like, Lord, I mean, well, I don't play the lottery, but if someone were to be like, I want the wind to blow a ticket. I don't want to buy the lottery. I don't support what they're doing, but I want the wind to blow a ticket into the floorboard of my car, and I pick it up, and there it is. And
hey, you're giving me an idea how to pray right now.
I'm just saying. So
I won't buy the ticket, but if it blew in my car,
I'm just saying, I open my door and whoosh, whops in, a Powerball ticket. Anyways,
nobody would believe that story.
Not at all.
One person. I'd be like, yo. I mean, I stood up and said in the pulpit,
yeah,
keep your pig money.
I don't even know what that means, but I grabbed it. I was like, yeah, I love that.
One of Kelly's favorites to throw back at me. I mean, she legitimately loves it. She loves that stuff when I get real fiery. But man, I had some people at church that play the lottery, and they're like, all right, fine. If I win, I'm keeping it. And I'm like, good.
Yeah.
keep your pig money. I might regret that later.
Yeah, maybe. Keep it, but you can give it to Paul. You can give it. Don't forget Paul.
The school is its own ministry.
It's its own ministry, guys. Come on. Oh man. So that's one thing. Real briefly, can you be bold and pray specifically for things you want? And even we have instances of the Bible of people praying condemnation and consequences on people.
Yeah,
so where do you land on that?
Yeah, I think that what you just said is exactly where I would land is this. Man, I think there's one thing to say, my heart in that is bitterness and unforgiveness is unchristian.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Bitterness is the root of all kinds of evil. That's biblical. That's literally in the Bible. And unforgiveness, the Lord tells us that, well, first of all, we read from John, real strong language about that. And if you won't forgive your brother, and Jesus as well, if you won't forgive your brother, your Father won't forgive you. Like you have to be a forgiving people. Jesus says in his model prayer, Lord, forgive us of our trespasses as we forgive those who've trespassed against us. Yeah. And so, the sermon this past week was to talk about, like, how do you get rid of the bitterness and the betrayal? Like, all of those points, when I wrote them as done wrong, this, done wrong, like with a question mark, like you've been done wrong, this, it's let them have the reward. It's an earthly reward. If you really think about it, you're fighting over something that's going to perish. And I know in the immediate that can feel hard, but man, if you want to be free, let go of the temporary and hold on to the permanent. Yeah. And which one's gonna yield a better reward? I don't know if I said that well enough on Sunday, but man, that's what I meant by it. Is like it's a temporary reward that you're fighting for here. I would rather spend my time fighting for an eternal reward where moth and rust can't destroy. Yeah. Lay up treasure the kingdom of heaven. So what I'm saying is, if you've been done wrong and you're holding on to bitterness, sometimes you don't even realize you're doing that. And I've had that happen to me a couple of times in my life where I realized, like, man, I'm holding on to something. And the question then becomes, how do I let that thing go? And that's the point I'm trying to make. I don't think I'm trying to make a point to say, oh, don't pray for anything specific ever. I think that would be unbiblical. The Bible says you don't have because you don't ask. But he also goes on to say, but you also ask and don't have because you ask amiss because you'd spend it on your own lust. The lottery ticket scenario, whether I want to admit that or not, would be after my own lust. Like I really would love a Bronco.
I'm just saying, I would really love a Toyota 4Runner.
Yeah,
It's on my goal sheet.
it's on the goal sheet, man. Maybe I just give you the 4Runner.
That's right. I keep forgetting. Yeah,
there's one
it drives by every Sunday, and I'm like, someday.
Oh man, it's so funny. This is that thing because you look at my 4Runner and you go, "Oh man, one day."
Yeah.
I look at people in Broncos. I'm like, one day.
Yeah.
Which goes to prove the point of the temporary factor.
Yeah.
But if a lottery ticket ever blows into my Toyota 4Runner, I will give you the 4Runner and I'll buy a Bronco.
Yeah, I support this message, man. I love it.
But I think that, praying for specifics, like you just said, there are biblical examples of praying specifics, even like against somebody who's done wrong. I don't think that that's wrong. I think there's a moment to be angry. The Bible says be angry and sin not. So there's a difference in being angry and not sinning and being angry and becoming bitter.
Yeah.
There's a difference in somebody wronging you and you forgiving them and them wronging you and you refusing to forgive them. And when you refuse to forgive them or you hold on to that bitterness, the weight and the chain and the barrier that you're creating is between you and God, not you and this other person. The rift is already there between you and the other person. So why do I want there to be a rift between me and God when the rift is actually between me and this other person?
Yeah.
But the problem is I get so focused on like getting the vindication. Like I just want I'm speaking for myself here. Like I just want somebody to agree with me that I'm right. I remember when all the gossip was going around the church about me and Kelly, and man, I just wanted people to agree with me that I didn't do the things they were saying. And I don't think the masses of people were in agreement with these other people, but nobody really knew what was going on. I mean, there were all these crazy rumors going on. I remember one of them being like, I bought Kelly a house. That's what people had said. They were like, well, he bought Kelly. I'm like, y'all reasonably, like, look at my salary. I literally couldn't buy her a house if I wanted to.
Yeah.
And I look back on that, I'm like, why did I justify that? Why didn't I just literally laugh that off and be like, okay, well, you're an idiot,
Yeah.
But, in the moment, so what I'm saying is, man, I think there's the point to your like, do you pray for specifics? Totally think it's okay to pray for specifics. And I think it's okay to be angry, but it's also biblical and it's our obligation to forgive and to move forward. And like, we're not supposed to be stuck. The Lord is free. He frees us. He's the great deliverer. We don't have to stay in that bitterness. So you don't have to continue fighting for that vindication. Let the Lord vindicate you. Trust him that he'll do it. I had this example. I didn't use it on Sunday, but like, think of it like this. Imagine with me that I'm going to try to use this example. Hopefully it'll land but for lack of a better example thought, like imagine with me that you had an opportunity to sit at the table with the president of the United States. You're there with Donald Trump, literally one-on-one conversation. You're going to have a meal with Donald Trump. As a matter of fact, let's take that even further and say you're going to have a meal with Donald Trump and you get to share with him about our school and about our mission and what we're wanting to do with education in America.
Yeah.
Okay, this is your conversation. Somebody from the Secret Service busts in the door and says, hey, were you driving that 4Runner? And maybe you didn't have a 4Runner. Maybe it's your car that you have now. Were you driving the minivan? And you're like, yeah, that was my minivan. And they're like, man, Secret Service guy, you're sitting across from Donald Trump. And he's like, dude, somebody stole your minivan. Now, would you be upset if your minivan was stolen?
Oh yeah,
probably. I'd be like, there'd be some concerns, there'd be some thoughts, whatever. And so just imagine with me, you're like, well, wait a second, somebody stole my van, and they're like, yeah, it's gone. We don't know where it is. Are you going to get up from that table, that opportunity to speak with Donald Trump about our school and our mission? Are you going to get up from that opportunity and go wander around Washington, D.C. looking for your minivan?
Well, no.
Right. I think there's just too many people who are getting up from the table with the king to go wander around looking for their vindication, looking for their justification.
Oh, that's good.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like we're leaving the important table to go fix something that we can't fix. You're not going to find that minivan. If the Secret Service doesn't know where the minivan is, you're not going to find it. You're going to spend all night wandering for the minivan, still be out the minivan, and you're going to have the testimony of, I missed my conversation with the president.
Over nothing.
Over something, over nothing. And man, I think that's the point I'm trying to get at. When you hold on to bitterness and unforgiveness, you're getting up from the table that you have a seat at with the Lord to go seek your own vindication instead of being able to sit in front of the king and say, man, this is the thing that's troubling me or whatever. The Lord says, bring me your concerns. Like I can bring those to him, and his shoulders are big enough to handle that. But, and I had a run in with a church when I was 18 years old. I was so mad at that church. And I was so mad at my in-laws, for some stuff that had happened there. I just newly got married, and there's a big fallout over all of that. And man, since it's all been good. But I'm going to tell you, man, I spent the first year of my marriage angry at family members and angry at the church. And my parents invited me to come to this church. They said, hey, I'd sworn church off. I'd literally, 18 years old, I walked out of church saying, I will never darken the door of another church, ever. I'm going to go be a missionary. I wasn't giving up on the Lord, but I was totally giving up on church. And the Lord loves to laugh at things like that.
Yeah, he does.
And so I walk out of church saying, I'm never going to go to church again. And my parents invited me 1 year later. They invited me to the church, and they were like, you've got to come. It is different than what you think. Not all churches are. I was saying, like, churches are a country club. They just want your money and, whatever. And so I'm saying all this stuff, and my mom's like, you won't think that after you come to this church. And I went, and it was not that. Hellfire and brimstone, this guy run anybody off. Like, he did not care. Yeah. And I needed that in my life at that time. And so I start going to this church, and he invites me to be in the youth ministry. The pastor does. And so I jump in the youth ministry with my brother. My brother was part of that invite and invited me to come in and be the youth pastor. And so I started there in ministry, and then I'm getting to know the pastor, and he's, really like discipling me. And as he's hearing my story, and I'm telling him what's going on in my life, and how mad I am at the church, and how mad I am at my in-laws, and these things, and I remember him looking at me, and he let me say it all. He let me get it all out that night. We had pizza at his house, and I didn't have any kids, or at least, I don't think I had any kids at the time. It was just me and Sarah, and I'm telling him the story, and he lets me get it all out, and then he looks at me and he goes, and you got to give all that up, right? And I'm like, no, they did. And, I'm like pointing all this stuff out. And he's like, and you as a Christian, he was like, you have to give that all up. He was like, you have to forgive them. Yeah. And so he just took me under his wing. And I remember him just working with me, like being patient with me through that. Like he would let me vent and screw up or whatever. And then he'd correct me. And man, the end result of that was that I had a restored relationship with my in-laws. I ended up with not only a restored relationship with my in-laws, they ended up coming to church and being a deacon in the church for, the next 12 years or whatever it was. I mean, they were there for, well, I say 12 years, actually a decade. They were there for the next 10 years. And man, the Lord did that because I didn't hang on to the anger and the animosity or whatever, but it took somebody pointing that out in me that like you're holding on to bitterness and you can't do that. That's unchristian. Yeah. And I think that's the thing that maybe sometimes Christians kind of forget. Like we feel so justified but they hurt me. You can't forgive somebody who didn't hurt you. It literally has to start with them hurting you before you can forgive them.
People like the idea of forgiveness, but they forget what comes before forgiveness.
Yeah. You have to, somebody's got to do you wrong and then you can forgive them. Yeah. So, man. All the stuff, Philip.
Man, I could go on for hours, and I feel like there's so much more meat left on that bone. But
we could chew it if you want.
I would.
But you have a schedule.
Yeah, I do. So. I've got to go today. Man, this conversation's been great. It has been a couple weeks since we got back together, and I have missed it a lot.
We're on like Donkey Kong.
That's it, man. We're not missing.
We're not missing again. So we're 20 episodes going to look like nothing when we're at 1,000 or
that's it, man.
Else.
Oh man, so 1,000 weeks from now. Okay, that'd be interesting.
That's a lot of weeks.
We got this.
Hey, y'all, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you all next week.
If you need hope, come closer. If you need fire, come closer. He turns the broken into gold and the dry